All right, we're going to take a quick look at Moodle. See what's going on here. Let me get to this week. Oh, yeah, I should probably click on our class first, right? I'm only on my Moodle homepage. I'm a little distracted, but it's, I'll get it together. There we are. Now we'll find our week and see where you guys are at with stuff. So, the forum assignment, that's last week. Here we go. PowerPoint for this week is up there if you want to follow along. The link for Twitch is there, as well as our YouTube channel. And so you should have watched the video on what is organizational communication. I hope you have. If not, please do it. And then the videos about bureaucracy with Better Off TED and Monty Python, the 2 Monty Python videos. Who all has watched the Monty Python and the Better Off TED videos? Anybody? Nobody? This is why they thought I had it. I don't have it. I just have some wonky virus, and what a weird time to get a wonky virus when there's this crazy virus going around. Nobody has watched the Better Off TED or the Monty Python videos.
Alyssa has watched the TED video, but not the other two.
Okay. Alyssa, what did you think of the Better Off TED video? Anything?
Not yet.
That's right, we run a 6-second delay here, so... Alright, well, I'm waiting for Alyssa to reply about what she thought of the Better Off TED video. I want to just encourage you guys after class this morning to watch at least those 3, the Monty Python ones and the Better Off TED. It's just kind of brings to light...
She says, I can definitely see how that stuff could happen in real life, and then getting the runaround.
Yeah, the runaround and sticking to your rules even when they don't make sense. Sometimes bureaucracies do these things, and following their protocol and sticking stringently to it, they leave out obvious common sense things, right? You sometimes want to say, never mind the rules, just use your common sense here, but they don't. So, definitely watch the Better Off TED. You should watch the 2 for Monty Python, which are hilarious and you should enjoy. And then, so we have the forum exercise here. I hope you guys have gotten to that. The video for Max Weber, I hope you guys have at least thought about looking at that. What else are you doing? Let's take a look at those. And what have we got going on here? So, the Think Response assignment that's due for the end of this week. I'm going to go over that right now with you guys. So, the chapter talks about organizational assimilation. What is this? Go away. Why won't you go away? What's that telling me to do, John?
Your Windows 7 operating system is no longer supported by Windows.
What? What am I supposed to do with it?
You can either hit postponed or stay protected.
Stop trying to scare me, universe. Just stop. Alright, so... Anyway, describe 3 stages of organizational assimilation that you have observed or experienced within a group or an organization that you belong to. So today we're going to talk about organizational assimilation. And, we started to touch on that a little bit in terms of socializing people to go to work or to work in groups, right? We start with our family and then enter preschool and all those things. So this can be, so your organizational assimilation, it could be to how are you organizationally assimilated to Teal College? What things does your first year experience do at school that helps you become assimilated to the institution, become a part of it? Or you could pick a sports team or a Greek organization or other club. It can also be like your off-campus job. Like, how do you get assimilated socially to be in that organization, whatever it is. So answer this in a Word document. Please use MS Word because you're going to submit it here. It must be 150 to 200 words in length, full complete thoughts and sentences. Spelling and grammar are going to count for this. This is going into writing and also quizzes. So it's due Sunday, March 29th by 9 p.m. So the rubric is your word count. Meeting your word count is 25 points. Your content, the quality of your answer is 55 points. And your writing mechanics, did you remember to capitalize? Did you remember to put commas in? This isn't a text message, it's an academic assignment. So your writing mechanics, even for something as measly as 200 words, is still 20 points. So that. Then Monday, chat office hours, which I already held for this week. Next Monday, I'll be doing the same thing. All right. But if you need something or you're not sure about something, email me and I will be sure to get right back to you. Does anybody have any questions right now? About the assignment, about due dates or videos I want you to watch? No questions? Think about it for a minute while I find the frame that we were on for this. Bureaucracies and breakdown, we talked about that. And when a bureaucracy breaks down, it's not necessarily due to the bureaucracy, it's due to the rules that are in place that should have been clearly laid out so everybody understands what they're doing. So we talked about positive and negative communication traits, right?
Will the think/response open be open on Friday?
Yes. Yes, the think response will be open on Friday. So again, we talked about positive communication traits. So communication that is empowering to others, that doesn't degrade them or cut them down, isn't arrogant or pompous. Like, those things matter in terms of good communication in an organization. And then assertiveness, feeling comfortable enough to be able to say how you really think and feel. And supportiveness, like saying supportive things to others, like, what can I do to help you reach your goal? Or, I can take this part of the task if it's overwhelming for you, or you're doing such a great job. Those kinds of communications are all really positive things. And motivational communication, we've got this, we can do this, we can meet our deadline. All those kinds of positive communication traits help organizations to flourish and thrive. But on the other hand, negative traits in communication will limit the flow of communication in an organization, cause groupthink and stagnation. And so we want to avoid things like intimidation, bullying kind of talking to others. Get this done or else you're fired, right? Get this done or I'm going to our superior. Criticisms, that kind of thing. Aggressiveness, like taking your stance or your point of view and being so firm with it that there's no room for debate about it at all. being really pushy, more than assertive, right? Aggressiveness is a different feeling altogether. And when that kind of communication, aggressive communication is going on, it's really hard for the organization to flourish. Now, I have to say, intimidation and aggressiveness, you see this in organizations like the military and the police and even the fire department to an extent, especially when they're in training. You have soldiers or police officers or firemen, those kinds of units of people that have these intense missions will have a leadership sometimes that relies a little bit on intimidation and aggressiveness and name calling and belittling and things like that. But it generally isn't really productive, and it really does not work in everyday civilian life. So secrecy, feeling like there's something going on that higher ups aren't telling you or they're keeping from you, is another really poor communication trait. And then having an air of superiority over others, as if something is going on maybe in the PETA center, and all us faculty know about what's going on, but Linda, our housekeeper, doesn't, and we sort of have an air of superiority about it, like we don't need to tell her. She's only the housekeeper. She's too far below us for us to really interact with. That's what that attitude is like. Of course, that would never happen. We love Linda. She is awesome, and she's a part of our team as much as any of the rest of us in that building. So that doesn't happen in our department, but it can happen. And when it does, when you have that kind of hierarchy that turns into a sense of superiority, that's when a lot of permission is given for these other things to happen, like secrecy and intimidation of others and aggressive sort of talking to each other. So those things are never productive, and they are not good. So, organizational climate is the product of an employee's interaction with the functioning of the organization, and is influenced by leadership structure, and the climate tends to be communicated down from the top. So the climate or the culture of an organization is communicated from the top down. It's modeled, it's influenced by the people who are in charge, and it really does determine the way that the company functions and flows. It says everything about it, and it really can cause a company to thrive or not. Organizational culture is the pattern of shared basic assumptions or inferences that members learn from organizational stories, myths, traditions, and everyday experiences, observed behaviors. So when you have a company where people tend to work a lot of overtime, and they're very connected on the weekends and their off time, they feel like they're never really off work, like they're not able to find that kind of work personal life balance. That's usually because of the culture of the institution or the organization that they're with. And how that gets communicated to them is by supervisors and management saying things like giving rewards, or talking about how late or how long or how hard somebody else is working, and pointing them out as an example of workplace ethic for that company. That people die on their swords for the company, those kinds of things. They get passed down, and they are disseminated through the people who work there, through its culture, which is passed down from the top. Some organizations have a different kind of a culture. They have a different set of values about what they think and they want from their employees, what their business or organization stands for. So for instance, if you Work in healthcare. You would imagine, for the most part, that if you're not feeling well, it's more accepted working in healthcare that you stay home. Right? It's just the attitude, it's the work ethic, it's the knowing of how diseases spread, those kinds of things. However, you go to work at a certain hospital and they are relying on the workforce there, and so now they start to put pressure on people that they should come to work even if they aren't feeling well. And so that's a shift in culture. So, say you are working in health care in a doctor's office, and it's a pediatrician or a general practice doctor. And if you have a cold, the attitude there is go home, stay there. We don't want you getting everybody else sick. Come back when you're well. But you're working now for UPMC or a major hospital, and you have a cold, and your supervisor is, well, take some zinc and vitamin C and come on in because we need you here. And look at Mary. Mary's here every day, even when she's half dead. So, difference in culture. So we have socialization that goes on when people first enter an institution or a new organization. So we talked a little bit about this before, and really quickly, it's task socialization, like information about your job. Work group socialization, which specifies one's work group and how it functions within the larger organization. So you get communication about those things and orientation in that way. And then organizational communication, which is learning about the organization's history, its values, its goals, its beliefs, its customs, its culture, its rules, all those things. So as you enter any new job or a new organization, these are the things that happen first, right? To sort of assimilate you into the workforce there or into the group, whatever the group is. Organizational assimilation. So organizational assimilation is the process by which individuals become integrated into the culture of an organization. So this is what your Think Response paper is about. This is what you guys are going to be talking about. So apply this to, what did you have to go through to get into Teal and become a part of the Teal community? What did you have to learn and do? What processes were there when you first joined your sorority or your team at Teal, if you play a sport at Teal? What are some of the initiations that happen that help orient people to the organization and its culture, its beliefs, its work ethic, its interactions with each other? 3 stages of organizational assimilation. So first is the anticipatory socialization stage. So that's throughout one's life, you're being socialized about work and the workforce. And again, that starts, the anticipatory stage starts when you're home with your family as a little baby. Again, like I said, you have to learn the rules of the road for your family, that you say please and thank you, that when someone sneezes, you say God bless you. When people are at the dinner table and you want something on the table, you ask for it to be passed to you, reach over the table. So families are starting the initiation process, the anticipatory process of socialization into group functioning and the workforce. Clean up your room. Keep your room neat is another thing that families do that help people eventually, because it's a responsibility. Have you done your chores? Have you taken the garbage out? Have you walked the dog? Have you fed the dog? Have you done your laundry? All these things are things that socialize us into becoming part of a workforce. And then think about school, right? And entering preschool and things like that. And I gave a good example about that the other day. Organizational entry and assimilation stage. So this is the first day of work when roles, norms, ranks, and controls are established. That's the first day of work, or it's your first rush party for a sorority or fraternity, or it's day 1 of training for maybe You know, after you've tried out for a team and you're accepted, this is your first day of being part of that team. Finding your place in it, understanding what the work ethics are, what the rules are, who has what role, and what the hierarchy is within your team. So that's the organizational entry and assimilation stage. And then there's the disengagement stage. So once you go through this and you kind of have the rules of the road, it takes a while, it takes a week or two for people to sort of start to get in the groove of what this new place and these people are all about and what's expected of you and how do you fit in and feel like you belong and that you're a part of this bigger thing, right? All of that happens, but then eventually there comes the disengagement or exit stage. So for some of you in sororities, fraternities, teams, clubs, and organizations on campus, this disengagement and exit stage will happen when you graduate. Most likely. Although with sororities and fraternities, your position with them sort of morphs. Like my son is a big brother still for his fraternity from the University of Buffalo. So while he's not directly engaged with everything that they're doing, he goes up a couple of times a year for functions and events, and he's available for little brothers who are just joining the fraternity that need some sort of older person guidance, that kind of thing. Mentoring. But still his position and his role within the organization has changed. So disengagement and exit stage, that's leaving the job for another, either within the organization. So let's say you were in one department and now you're being moved to another department. That's disengagement from the work group that you were in, right? Or outside the organization altogether. So when we talk about things like moving within the organization, that again fits in with my son being a big brother and an alumni for his fraternity, that he goes back and still he plays a role, but it's a different role, and so he had to learn to get comfortable with that. Strong organizational cultures. So some organizations have loose sort of cultures that are not so easy to define, and some organizational cultures have very strict, stringent rules and norms and things like that. So the military, for instance, very strong organizational culture. The New York City or any fire department has a very strong organizational culture. Not just the way that they interact with the fire department overall or the general public, but how they communicate and interact with each other. Very traditional ways of doing things and very strict and stringent rules for a lot of stuff. So, you know, you think about that, but then if you join a garden club or some other sort of community organization, the rules may be just not as strict, not as stringent. So, strong organizational cultures are ones with their socialization and assimilation with skill result in greater employee satisfaction, increased productivity, and greater customer satisfaction. So, they're finding, and customer trust too, they're finding that organizations who have this strong culture, Google, very strong organizational culture. Maybe the rules are different, but the culture of Google is very strong. Ben and Jerry's, go back to them again. They make ice cream. I like ice cream. So, you know, they also have a strong organizational culture. And they produce a good product, and because of their strong organizational culture, everybody understands what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to use their skills, how their skills are a part of the greater picture of what's going on with the company, and everybody's more happy because of it. So everybody has a better understanding of what's going on. There's greater customer satisfaction because of that. So think about, again, like, you know, a firehouse or a police station that has a very strong organizational culture where everybody feels like they understand each other and they're supportive of each other. those men and women now go out into the field to conduct whatever they're supposed to do, put out a fire, save a life, stop a bad guy. But because they have this strong organization behind them, they are able to feel more satisfaction and supportiveness in what they're going out to do, which is a difficult, dangerous thing to do. And if they feel that way, they're going to initiate more trust and satisfaction and confidence from the people that they are serving. So that's the idea behind this. Thus, a strong corporate culture enables workers to feel as if they are making positive contributions to the organization as a whole. Because they understand where they fit in, and that they're not just a useless cog in this wheel, they're a cog that would be missed if they were missing, and if they don't hold up their end of the tasks at hand, the overall mission won't go through. So again, whether you're putting out a fire or developing a new product, any of those things, having a strong organizational culture where everybody understands how things go and what the missions are and what the goals are, and they understand the organizational communication process, they feel supported, they have the good communication traits that are going on, like that's emphasized within this culture, it only leads to the thriving of that company or that organization. So it's all good. The 6 elements that build a strong culture. So let's talk about that. So what builds a strong culture? So the history of how that organization started, sharing the organization's past is one way of ensuring that people understand the value and the traditions and the stability of the organization. So like with WXTC, with the radio station, we have what we call the Station Bible. And in this big binder, there's copies of paperwork we use all the time. There's pages with photocopies of articles about the station, moments that have been like watermark moments for us. And so we have that part of the history within the book, but also in the beginning of the book is like the mission statement, how the station got started, who were the first board of directors for Teal College Radio, and so some background about the history. This way people understand that they're a part of a thing that's bigger than them, right? Understand it in context with the history. Values and beliefs. So what does the company deem important? Well, if you're looking at something like Ben and Jerry's, they feel like environmental protection is important and other kinds of social justice issues, and because of that, they work in a way that's more environmentally friendly, more green-oriented. Resource conservation is important to them. Nature and things like that. So they build things into their culture that, and their everyday life that validates that reinforces those beliefs, like making sure that their employees get time outside every day. Just around the campus of the Burlington factory in Vermont of, or it's Bennington actually, Ben and Jerry's, there are all these park-like walking trails and stuff, and so their employees are encouraged to get outside and contemplate their navels and get some zen time to chillax a little bit. And so that's part of the values and beliefs of Ben and Jerry's. They feel like it's important for everyone to do that. If their employees do it, they're going to be better employees. And so that says more about the company than just they're worried about their employees' mental health. It says, you know, what are their basic core values, right? What do the founders, it comes from the top down, what did Ben and Jerry think about, you know, the world around them and why they were starting this company, and how does that get passed along to employees who will never meet Ben or Jerry? So rituals and ceremonies, traditions that unite people, that unite workers. So Good example of this is about a month or so ago, we had the President's Day celebration during Founders Week for school. And some of our staff and faculty got awards. They got President's Awards for outstanding work. So that would be one thing. And think about college. Oh my God, the rites and rituals and ceremonies that we have overall in school, commencement, convocation, Founders Day celebrations, picnics that we have, freshman move-in day, all these rituals and ceremonies are traditions that unite workers together. So when sophomores, juniors, and seniors come around to help with freshman move-in day, that is a tradition, and it says something to the incoming first-year students, and it says something about the kind of institution that we are, that we're a community, that we're a small community that looks out for each other. Stories, so shared narratives about the organization. So that's when you'll hear things about Thiel College, how it was founded. One of the things that Thiel likes to talk about, which is an important story that they share, is when Thiel was founded, it's the people that began the college thought it was important for diversity to be on campus. So even though they started it under a Lutheran conference, they reached out to people who are non-Lutheran, and they made a really big point of saying, you don't have to be our religion to come to the school. They also reached out to students who weren't necessarily going to college at that time. African American students, for instance. There's one of the first colleges in this region that brought in African American students back in the beginning of its inception. So they like to tell those stories, and it speaks to their values and their shared beliefs about things. And it reinforces what the organization really feels. It's narratives. They're good feeling stories. Nobody ever talks about the bad things. But anyway, so heroic figures, so organization role models. So like Dr. David Miller, right? He's esteemed, and he's brought up to all of us 52 years at Thiel College. He's a heroic figure among us. So that's just an example. If you think about your sorority, fraternity, you think about your sports team or other organizations, you may hear stories about people who did an outstanding job. They were crazy good players, that kind of thing. At WXTC, we have a heroic figure. His name is Ronell Hunt. He's been working in broadcasting now for the last 5 years, and when Ronell was on campus, he was like the Pied Piper. People just naturally followed Ronell. And he got people to do things. He pulled people together. He just has a knack for that sort of thing. And after making it through school, he's graduated and now working in the field. He's somebody that we like to talk about. He was our station manager, and within our organization, we like to bring up Ronell every once in a while. Why can't you be more like Ronell? No, it's not like that. But, he still is connected with us too, and gives us a lot of encouragement from the outside, but just an example of a heroic figure. And then cultural network, lines of communication, like the grapevine. So, even though you may or may not get an official memo about something in your email, you're going to find out about it through these cultural networks, whatever's going on. Lines of communication, kind of like the grapevine. And so how much of that is tolerated, and what kind of talk do people do about each other in a particular organization or a network? So I've noticed that at WXTC, people are very careful about being critical of one another. Even if they've dropped the ball on something, they approach it out of concern and kindness rather than, lambasting them for being lazy slackers or whatever it is. They don't get aggressive about it, and they don't really get angry, but if somebody isn't doing what they're supposed to do, they reach out, but they don't talk about them behind their backs. They just don't do it, and I really love that about our organization. I feel like, talking about someone behind their back doesn't solve a problem. It doesn't fix the thing. It just kind of makes you feel better for a moment, and maybe not even that. So, what's the grapevine like? What's the back channel of information like? who says what to who. So I know if I want to ever know anything kind of on the inside about stuff, I can go to Nancy in admissions. Nancy knows everything. She knows a lot. You know who else knows a lot? Barbara Long Cooper. She knows what. You ever want to get the information, make friends with one of the administrative assistants because of somebody higher up, because they know stuff. They know stuff. Not that they'll always tell you things, especially if it's confidential and they're not allowed to, but you'll get a heads up about things. So that's the cultural network. See what we're doing for time here. Oh, we've only got like 5 more minutes. So I'm going to try to just diversity in organizational life. So we have to deal with diversity now more than ever. Not have to as if it's a burden, but it's important. So these groups represent bounded cultures within the larger organization. So if you have people who are, of a certain age or a certain ethnic background, there are different ethnicities and characteristics that happen in a workplace, and that affects communication. So diversity is an important thing to consider within an organization, because diversity can be a really positive thing. It brings another point of view in, it helps to counteract groupthink and things like that, and it helps us to understand and appreciate other people's differences and environments that they come from. So pluralistic or an open culture is influenced by globalization, and some companies are dealing with diversity more so than others, especially if they have a global workforce presence. They may have people from other countries coming in, and that kind of thing. So you have to learn to function and work with people from different backgrounds without judging them based on your own culture. And so it's a little tricky. But I do happen to have this really nifty video I want to show you guys about equity and diversity. It's only a few minutes long, so I'm going to go ahead and let you guys see it really quick, and then we'll get ready to wrap things up in a few minutes here. But stick around, let's watch this together. Turn up the volume. Pump up the volume, pump up the volume.
Paul, Ina. Paul, Ina is a man, woman, Hindu, Jew, Christian, Muslim, pregnant, breastfeeding, gay, bisexual, pansexual, asexual, wheelchair-using, married, civilly partnered, unmarried, black, white, Asian, Polish,
I gotta
English,
start this from the
Swahili, gender
beginning so you
reassigned,
guys get
atheist
it.
Welshman,
Sorry.
with a skin condition.
Okay, why aren't you going? Go.
Meet Paul, Ina. Paul, Ina is a man, woman, Hindu, Jew, Christian, Muslim, pregnant, breastfeeding, gay, bisexual, pansexual, asexual, wheelchair-using, married, civilly partnered, unmarried, black, white, Asian, Polish, English, Swahili, gender reassigning, atheist Welshman, with a skin condition. Paul, Ina is also a valued and welcome employee of our company, and we believe in equality, diversity and inclusion of everyone in every way we can think of. It is illegal in Britain to discriminate on the grounds of age, disability, sex, sexual orientation, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, religion or belief, race or gender reassignment. But discrimination comes in many forms. There's direct discrimination. Paul, Ina doesn't get promoted because she's older, or her boss thinks it might be a problem for other people that she's older. But there's also indirect discrimination, where a policy applies to everyone, but has a disproportionate impact on some people. For instance, if a job ad specifies that applicants should be clean-shaven, it indirectly discriminates against Paul, Ina, because his belief doesn't allow him to shave. Then there's associative discrimination, discriminating against someone who is associated with a protected group. So if Paul, Ina's disabled father needs special care, the company can't discriminate against Paul, Ina because she needs to take time off to care for her father. Finally, there's perception discrimination. So if Paul Ina dresses and acts in a way that makes people think she's gay, even though she's not, she can't be discriminated against. Not for being gay, and not for not being gay. Discrimination sometimes takes the form of harassment or bullying. These can include threats, jokes, gestures, aggressive physical behaviour, as well as repeated behaviour a person has previously objected to. Under no circumstances will the company tolerate harassment or bullying. Equality legislation also applies to pay, benefits and training opportunities. So if Paul Ina, a gender reassigning bloke from Bolton, does exactly the same job as Paul Ina, an Essex girl who owns a llama, they should be paid the same, get the same benefits and access to the same training. We take equality and diversity very seriously, not just because we have to, but because we believe in it. If you would like a better understanding of equality and diversity, you can find out more about it on the intranet. Thanks for listening. Thanks from us and from Paul Ina, the breastfeeding, gender reassigning gay Morris dancer from Hertfordshire, who would say thank you himself but can't, as she's completely deaf and can only use sign language.
Okay, kind of a tongue-in-cheek look at diversity and tolerance in the workplace. So it's really important. I just want to finally land on this. Actually pertains to me a lot working at Teal, right? Think of the things that Teal has had to do to accommodate my disability. First of all, it has to let a dog on campus every day, all the time in my office. I have to be allowed to break Reggie when he needs to go to the bathroom, not when the company says I have a break. So that has to happen. I need adaptive equipment, and I need a TA like you, Alex, or John, who's doing a good job too, to help me to be able to run my technology, read my notes, and do other things that my eyesight won't allow me to do, right? When they send me in email certain documents, if they're not configured to a way that my adaptive software can access them, they have to send me a whole new document that's reformatted in a way that, or come and tell me themselves. Other times we have these trainings that go on mid-year to catch us up to speed with things with the organization or professional development. If those are not accessible to me, they have to deliver it to me in a different way. Every time we have a faculty meeting, everybody gets a packet and email of what the agenda for the faculty meeting is going to be. Barb Long Cooper has to reformat it into a Word document and send it to me because PDFs don't like to, I have to mess around with Zoom text too much to get PDFs to work for me. So she does that. So a lot of things go into it, but the benefit of all of that is I'm a pretty good teacher. I mostly know what I'm talking about. I have good relationships with my students. I am kind of a unicorn because not a lot of people know about radio, so they need my skill set. I've got that in my favor, and that's a benefit to the organization as a whole. And the fact that I'm a role model for other people who are struggling with issues in their lives to show that you can move past things and find a way to make it work if it's important to you. That's also something that the school thinks about that is important in terms of diversity and people coming in contact with people that you normally wouldn't come in contact with had you stayed in your bubble in whatever town or city or neighborhood you come from. So, I think that my interaction with people is important on campus. It's also important when people interact with me that they understand my limitations and they take that into consideration when they're communicating with me. So I'm kind of a chink in the communication flow at our school, but they're willing to step outside of the flow to accommodate me because the diversity factor is important. So a colleague may misunderstand some way I don't react to them because I don't see their facial expression. And if they were to have a difficult time with that and brought it up to somebody else, oh, that Peg, she just doesn't get it, they would say probably, well, Peg doesn't see the details of your face, how could she get it? So that would cause them to think. about how they interact with me. All these things in organizational communication are important. So the big takeaways for this are hierarchy, the culture of the organization that they're in, knowing that we've been assimilated to work within groups and organizations from the time we were born. We're social creatures, social beings. We're trained into doing these sorts of things, and focusing with other people, getting things done together. We even have a propensity to want to be a part of things that are bigger than us, right? It's just a innate human characteristic that we want to be a part of other things and other people. It's what makes this time right now that we're going through so difficult when we're all isolated from each other, because we're social creatures and we like to be together. So the organizational culture is very important. Knowing that, being assimilated into it is important. So think about your organizations that you're in charge of or that you have a leadership role in. How could you communicate better? How could you create a better assimilation process for new people to come into your organization? All those things. So we are not going to have a meeting this Friday, so you don't have to tune into Twitch. I will see you again on Monday. This video stream from today will be saved and posted to YouTube via John. Thank you, John. He'll get that up there for you guys for this afternoon. You have your assignments. You know what they are. They're on Moodle. Watch the videos. I put them there for a reason. I didn't put them up there because I had nothing to do Saturday afternoon and I just felt like checking out YouTube and some videos. These are like really good examples of bureaucracies in work and were not working. You need to know a little bit about Max Weber too. So important for you to look at all the videos that I put up there, and anyway, they're fun. You're missing out if you don't watch them. So anybody have any questions before we disband for the rest of the week? Okay, so since nobody has any questions, you know you can email me if you have a problem. Get those assignments done, and I will be emailing with you guys to let you know about next week and what we're doing. And please say a prayer for my son that he recovers fully and that his family doesn't catch this, and that this really crazy virus that's going around, that we get a vaccine for it really soon so we could all go back to normal. That'd be good. Just everyday problems seem like a great thing right now, right? All right, you guys, stay well and see you soon.